Hello, my name is Sean McCarthy, and thanks for inviting me to speak at your event today. Now, what I'm going to talk about are some tips on writing competitive proposals for Horizon 2020. Now, I want to start by talking about something called proposal intelligence. I want to explain the evaluation process, and I want to say a few words about the role of the support services in your university. Now here's a map of Europe, and here's Bergen, and I'm in Cork, and Cork is like the Bergin of Ireland, so I've actually visited your city over 15 times in the last 20 years, so I love visiting your university there. Now, if you analyse the organisations and even the individuals who are successful in Horizon 2020, you'll notice three things. The first thing is the science is excellent. They get a very high score in the scientific part of their proposal. But the other thing is they understand the process. They understand the forums, they understand the guidelines, they understand the evaluation process, and they use all the support services that are available. So what I want to talk about are the second two items on this list. Now, first you must understand how things work in Brussels. Now, Norway is not a member of the European Union, but the politicians from the 28 member states come together with the European Commission. Now, the European Commission, these are the civil servants responsible for the day-to-day running of European affairs. And the politicians on the Commission, they make policy. Now, policy is about looking 15 years down the road to see what are the main challenges that will face Europe, and also what are the big opportunities for Europe. Now, so in the field of health, for example, aging society is a big challenge, diabetes is a challenge, Alzheimer's is a challenge, but the opportunities would be things like personalized medicine, medical devices, artificial intelligence, and so on. So industry is looking at these, but industry is only looking 2 to 5 years ahead. So if we want to be ready for the challenges in 10 or 15 years, the politicians say, let's give 77 billion euro to the scientists to address these challenges. Now, if you look at the top of this slide, under the EU policy, you see a website called europa.eu. So one of the things you could do is do Google europa.eu diabetes type 2. Google europa.eu aging society, personalized medicines, and you see the debates that are going on behind your specific area. Now, when the politicians on the Commission are making policy, they consult the experts on the ground. Now, in America, this is called lobbying, but in Europe, it's called participating in the decision-making process. So what I'm recommending to you is when you're reading the work programs, you must understand the background to the work programs and to the topics, and this is what I call a proposal intelligence. Now, during your workshop, you're going to look at the structure of Horizon 2020, but it's divided into 3 main pillars. Now, pillar 1 is about making Europe world leader in science. Pillar 2 is about making Europe world leader in technology. And pillar 3 is about addressing real societal challenges. Now, in your workshops, you're going to look at the structure of Pillar 1, ERC, FET, and Marie Curie, and these are all about Europe leading in science. You're going to look at programs like ICT, where you'll have e-health, you'd have materials, where you'll have biomaterials research, and of course your biotechnology. And priority 1 of Pillar 3 is all about health. Now, one of the things you must understand is a terminology called bottom-up versus top-down. Now, bottom-up means that the scientist is totally free to submit any idea that they want. Top-down means that if you're looking at the health program, you must understand what are the debates about health. If you're looking at, for example, e-health or diabetes, you must understand who wrote the topic. And this is one of the issues that will be addressed with your support staff. Now let's look at the evaluation system. This comes from 450 BC, having knowledge but lacking the power to express it clearly. This is a major, major problem for people writing proposals. Now, the problem with academia is that you're very good at telling. You're not good at selling. Now, when you're telling, giving a lecture, writing a paper, speaking at a conference, your skill is that you understand how people learn. But when you're selling an idea, you must understand how do the evaluators think and how are the decisions made on the selection of the final proposals. So I'm going to apply those two things to the evaluation process in Horizon 2020. Now, let's look at the HELP program in 2015. Now, the first thing that happens, your proposal, when it arrives in Brussels, some young official will check, did you fill in the forms properly? Now, in this case, 1,212 proposals were eligible for evaluation and only 94 were funded. Now, that looks like a success rate of 7.7%, which is like a lottery. But that is not the number to concentrate on. Let's look at the evaluation process. The proposals are sent to evaluators and they are given a score sheet, and the maximum score in the HELP program is 15. Now, any proposal that got below 10 was considered below the threshold and was dead at this stage. Now, personally, any proposal that gets below 10 is a low quality proposal and should never have been written. Now, let's see what happened in 2015. 75% of the submitted proposals were low quality. So that means that only 318 proposals were considered high quality. Now, these are then sent to a panel, and the panel has to decide which 94 will be funded. So the real success rate is closer to 30%. So if you look at this diagram, the first thing you must understand is, what do the bureaucrats look for? In other words, how do we fill in the forms properly? Then you must understand, how will the evaluators evaluate our proposals? Now, who are these evaluators? How do they think? And what forms must be filled in? Now, when you come to the panel, you need to know who's on the panel and what exactly are they looking for. And these are the issues that will be discussed at your workshop over the next 2 days. So we can see here that there are 3 types of evaluators: the bureaucrat, the scientific evaluator, and the panel. Now, what I advise people to do is, when you're writing a proposal, you write it in the opposite direction. You begin by addressing the questions that come up at the panel meeting, and in your workshop I see that you have the agenda on the 1-page proposal. Then you go to your advisors, you discuss the proposal, and they might say, look, you might get 14 out of 15, but you will not be selected. Or they might say, it's a brilliant idea. Now, what I recommend you do is, you then get the evaluator sheets and you prepare the report that the evaluators have to prepare. Then you go to your advisors, you go to your national contact points, you go to previous evaluators, and they'll give you comments. And if they like your idea, you then think about writing the full proposal. Now, one other thing I'd like to say about the evaluation process. When your proposal arrives in Brussels, there's a person called the project officer. That is the person responsible for the topic, and they have to select the evaluators. Now, suppose your proposal is about type 2 diabetes. They'll read the summary, but they look at the keyword, and if your keyword is diabetes, they might find an expert on type 1 diabetes. Now, if you're talking about a non-invasive infrared sensor, and you type in the word sensor, you might get an expert who's an expert on transport sensors. And if you type in big data, but what you really want is health data analytics, then you could get the wrong evaluator. So the more precise you are in the keywords, the better. Now, if you want to become an evaluator, you sign on to the participant portal and you use the keywords of the topic where you'd like to be an evaluator. Now, the last section, I just want to say a few words about the Research Support Office. Now, when you're writing any proposal, there's two parts to every proposal. There's the scientific content and there are the rules. So the first thing you need to understand is how do we fill in the forms. Now, level 1 support is critical and it advises you on the legal, financial and procedures. Part B then is what are the questions relating to excellence, impact and implementation. Now, you need this kind of support to get above the threshold. But if you want to get a high score, support level 3 gives you templates, sample proposals, guidelines and so on. But what every university is trying to achieve is level 4 support. This is where you get advice on the background to the work program, the background to the topics, the screening of the proposals. Now let's look at this on a time scale. The call for proposals is published and you're given 4 months to write the proposal. But the work programs are published up to 1 year before the calls are published. Now, if you arrive at the support office on the week of the deadline, all you can expect is level 1 support, advice on the legal and financial rules. If you arrive 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline, maybe you can get support on the B part of the proposal. But if you arrive when the call is published, you can get a lot of support with templates and sample proposals. But the people that are very successful in Horizon 2020, they start their proposals once the work program is actually drafted. So the main message here is contact your support office as early as possible. So I hope you enjoy that. And I hope you have 2 very, very successful days. And I hope to meet you in Bergen in the future. Thank you very much.